let's get on my topic. I'm going to talk about a game with a storied past here. It's had a bit of division within its community lately. I'm of course talking again about
Destiny.
Bubsy 3D.
Oh, I don't know why that got me so much.
They can't make another Bubsy 3D game. They keep making the 2D ones.
The originals were classics.
Yeah.
Nobody can ever them. Open Magnus, masterpieces. I can't believe they remake this.
His clips are so funny. No, I'm going to talk about World of Warcraft, the new WoW expansion. Battle for Azeroth. Battle for Azeroth picks off after the last expansion. For those who know about WoW lore, the Burning Legion has been defeated, basically. And now we're back to good old vanilla style Horde versus Alliance. It's the kind of stuff you love.
We had to explain that in case, anybody from a different planet or who had died and resurrected within the last 20 years didn't know about this game.
Yeah, exactly. You're too big.
The only two groups that would not know about this.
Yeah, you're two big warring factions in the game, basically. So, Mao asked what faction I'm playing. Right now, I'm playing Horde. I have a very high level Alliance character too. But
do you wear your shoulder guard?
I shouldn't, because Sourfang is the shit. He's the true Horde chief, true war chief, not that Sylvanas. But so. Very much Sylvanas and Anduin don't like each other. They're the two leaders of the opposing factions. There's a new resource called Azeroth, which is supposed to heal the wounds of Azeroth left behind by Sargeras' giant sword.
Loot boxes?
No, but you do use it for other things, and it's quite contentious. This is where a lot of the contention in the community comes from.
Yeah, I've seen some talk about this.
The story, you basically, there's an Alliance very powerful mage named Jaina Proudmoore on the Alliance side. A lot of the Alliance story goes with going back to her home islands.
She's voiced by Laura Bailey, isn't she?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah. And
she is.
you tried to get basically her nation of people on the side of the Alliance once again. I think in like Warcraft 1 or 2, they left the Alliance. It might have been 3 even when Arthas went insane, but
I don't think it was 3 because I actually remember that game. I don't think they're almost mentioned.
Yeah, they were somewhat. I think it was 2, so you got to get them back to the Alliance. A lot of the Alliance story revolves around people who are trying to backstab the current leader, Jaina's mother, and who still believes Jaina is somehow responsible for the death of her father. So that's what a lot of that is, getting like various noble houses onto your side and trying to get them back into the Alliance. The Horde side is basically Black Panther.
It is. That's so true.
It totally is. The achievement for completing all the zones is called Forever Zandalar, or Zandalar Forever. It's basically Black Panther with Cthulhu monsters.
Great.
It's pretty awesome. You go to not Wakanda. It even has the part where like the city reveals itself.
Oh wow!
They say they don't say Wakanda forever, but they say like for Zandalar. They say all the phrases. There's like lots of Black Panther in jokes, which is weird because the game was in development before like Black Panther came out. Like Alpha was going on before the movie launched. I think they probably like started to lean into it when the movie got popular. During like Alpha and Beta,
similarities and stuff.
Yeah. So
generally, the voice acting lines generally come out pretty late into the process.
Yeah, they record those later on.
Done, so it could have actually been happening in between when they like it just came out. They saw it, was like, oh, we got to make some references in our voice, and they could have just gotten them in there really quickly. So just do a couple more lines and we'll use them.
Yep. They're a troll empire, Zandalar. They're very South American themed. Like the big Horde hub city is a giant ziggurat.
Neat.
And it's all about like their king. The king's his daughter basically wants to save him from the people who are going to betray him. So a lot of the quest zones revolve around that. There's like factions of trolls that want to kill him and usurp his throne. Yada yada yada. you go around, you find out like they're allied with old gods and stuff, and trying to enlist their aid to take them down. I think my supposition, a lot of people's like kind of hypothesis, is that the old gods are going to be pulling the strings and in the war at large and stuff. So now that like the big bad of Warcraft, Sargeras, is like defeated in quotes, at least for now. So yeah, the questing is really fun. The story is really good. It's the zones all look amazing. They all are really awesome looking. There's only one, since I've played all the zones, I played on Alliance and Horde. There's only one zone in the game I don't like out of 6, really. And even then, it's not like a strong hate, like some of the old zones. Like, the Burning Crusade zones, I do not like doing at all. Like, I will just like, if I level, I will run dungeons and avoid leveling in those zones. That's how much I hate them, just because I've done them so many times.
They're also just like a wasteland, right?
No, not all of them are. The first one is. The first one's a giant, it looks like Mars, basically, the Hellfire Peninsula. And then there's like forest, and there's like one that's all kind of like crags of energy. One is like a vast like plain and stuff. So there's some like different stuff, but they're all like monocolored kind of themed, like the color design and stuff. I'm not really a fan of, but anyways. So yeah, they want to lean into PvP stuff. So one big change is war mode, where you get a 10% experience bonus if you're in war mode, but that flags you as PvP. So people can come get you. They really want lots of world PvP in the expansion. They kind of incentivize you to get bonus Azeroth power, gold, and experience all while you're in war mode. So, coincidentally though, I haven't run into a lot of world PvP, and I've leveled in war mode the entire time.
Really?
Yeah. I'll explain kind of why. You don't. The other factions don't really start coming into your land until they level cap and start doing world quests. So they'll all be 120s. But the game like scales you level wise, like it'll scale them down or you up to basically like meet. So you just don't get ganked essentially. Like you probably won't beat them, but you can. You probably won't just because of the way the gear works, and I'll explain that in a second. The dungeons are all really good. One of my big complaints about Legion's where it really started to, I think, lean into more narrative stuff. Especially while questing. A lot of the narrative in the old expansions was baked into the raids. It revolved around that. I mean, you got some of it while you were questing and stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot of like really big scenes and stuff during the questing like there is now. But the dungeons in Legion, in my opinion, weren't as memorable really. Like, I don't even really remember any of them now. Like I do some of the older expansions. Like, the new ones are all really good though. They're really fun to run. Yeah, that's like the good stuff. And I'm probably going to sound really negative after this point. I actually really like the expansion. I like it a lot better than Legion and the one before it. But some of the big complaints about the game and stuff I agree with is class imbalance. The game really wasn't ready. I think they launched it early, and I don't know why they wanted to launch it so early or kind of rush it out. Some of the classes weren't done. Like shamans, none of their classes worked really until a hotfix like a few days ago. They were just not viable.
Like what way?
The specs weren't fit. Like abilities just didn't work right. Some of their gear Azeroth powers just didn't make any sense or didn't work correctly. Like the healers just couldn't output as much healing. Like you just don't bring a shaman healer at all with you in anything that's like mythic content.
Wow.
Shadow priests didn't really work. Warrior tanks just don't have enough mitigation. They're like super squishy compared to the other tanks, and they just didn't. It's because they didn't know how to balance their active mitigation throughout beta. So it feels like they kind of got halfway through beta without fixing stuff and launched it, and they're like just now fixing stuff a month later and catching up.
Wow.
So that's a problem. A lot of people are not happy with class balance. And they've been putting out hot fixes constantly to try to kind of scale things up. The other big thing is obviously always like, what do you do at the end of the game?
Yeah, in-game stuff.
Yeah. So basically, you're expected to do world quests. World quests give you rep faction. Basically, there's different factions for each larger faction. You kind of build reputation by doing quests with them, and it gives you access to better gear, like pets and toys and stuff like that. But that's a big way to earn gear and get geared up to go into raids. Another thing you do is called island expeditions, which I actually quite enjoy. In Legion, you had an artifact weapon, and it was kind of like this big class fantasy, class quest story-based thing. Like Frost Death Knight's got like a shard of Frostmourne, Arthas' sword, when he was the Lich King. Like Paladins could go get a legendary sword that Tyrion Fordring used, who's like this very important Paladin in lore, Light Ashbringer. So they're like these big legendary weapons, kind of, you went and got. In the new expansion, you have a neck piece called the Heart of Azeroth, and it's where all your, for lack of a better term, artifact power comes in. Artifact power is basically almost like a secondary XP bar. It's probably the best way to think about it. It levels up, and as it levels up, it gains item levels, and it interacts with your Azerite gear. Your headpiece, your chest piece, and your shoulder pieces, I believe that's the only three, are called Azerite armor. Basically, they have their own talents kind of built within the armor. And you unlock them as your Heart of Azeroth neck piece gains levels. And higher leveled, item leveled gear has higher item level requirements for your neck piece. So it's basically a giant grind as far as that goes, of leveling up your Heart of Azeroth. But
that sounds incredibly fun. I love grinding.
But Azeroth pieces, or your Azeroth armor pieces, a lot of the abilities aren't balanced at all. There's obviously like the 2 or 3 you want, but there's like 30 different abilities right now. So it's even more grinding because you have to not only get a high item level shoulder piece or head piece or chest piece, you also have to get the one with the traits you need. And it's a very, even more so RNG based than your typical MMO would be. Because you'll do lots of dungeon runs just to get the trinket you need dropped or the shoes you need dropped. But then you have to go beyond that and get a specific headpiece with the specific traits you need on it. So it's even more grinding. But
that's like a sin for RNG. You
yeah,
never put RNG on top of RNG. You can have 2 different systems that have RNG and they might coincide, but you don't put RNG in RNG. That'll piss people off.
This is where this is what's pissed everyone off and why people aren't having fun with the expansion. Luckily, I'm not like really on the hard grind to do raids and get raid ready, so it isn't really affecting me. But I understand where people are coming from on that too, because it's just like you said, it's a grind on top of a grind. It's just, it doesn't make sense, and if the abilities were better scaled with each other, then it wouldn't be as much of that. And that's what Blizzard's intent always was, and they haven't been able to balance these numbers even after a month. That's why people are mad. They're just not interesting abilities either. They're all passives, where just like something will proc, or you'll get like a heal every once in a while. It's not interesting at all.
I've seen it. I actually looked at some of the stuff there because I actually played a little bit of the expansion, trying it out. Worth my time. And I got like the first piece, and it was like, oh, you can get like these 3 pieces. And I was looking at the bonuses, and I'm like, okay, well, they don't really do anything interesting. They make like it do a little bit more damage, or like, oh, you get a little bit of healing on the side when you use this thing. And I'm like, well, that's neat, I guess.
Use this ability, and you get a dot.
Yeah, that's
seconds.
really what it was.
Like,
I was like, wow, that's nothing.
And it's those spread out across 30 like abilities, and there's the obvious good ones and the obvious bad ones. So
I don't know why they do that.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to grind that out, and you also have to grind out island expeditions are kind of the best way to get Azerite power and further increase the item level of your Heart of Azeroth neck piece. And they're actually fun. They're you team up with 3 people total, and you can do 3v3 against actual players of the opposite faction or against the computer. And it's basically like a point PvP system where you complete certain objectives on the island. You like mine Azeroth, kill mobs, hunt down the other faction members and kill them, do quests and stuff. It's a cool little interesting like PvP thing. It's a lot of fun, and you get a lot of Azeroth power for doing it. So you kind of want to grind that. Like there's a weekly, if you mine so much Azeroth, you get like 1,000 Azeroth power, which is a lot. It'll gain you like a level on your Heart of Azeroth. So,
is there a cap for the Heart of Azeroth?
No, it just gets to a ridiculous amount. The XP gets so exponential at certain levels that it's just like you would have to sit there and do it forever to gain a level. But they also lower the level requirement every week, so it gets easier and easier to level up every week.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, there's one set of raids out. It's already been beaten on Mythic by Method, who's like the best guild in the world, I think, as far as rating goes. But yeah, so I mean that's like the big thing. The two biggest things I've seen people complain about are class imbalance and just the Azeroth system. And Blizzard's kind of went like, well, we're this far in, we're stuck with it. I mean, this is what you got. You got to live with it, kind of. We'll do our best to make it as good as we can, but here you go. So, I've been enjoying the game, but it's probably because I haven't been playing it quite as serious as I used to in the past. I've only been putting in like an hour, maybe two, like 3 or 4 nights a week, and, you know, taking the leveling slow and doing what I want to do and going through dungeons and not worrying about the grind, like just putting my nose to the grindstone like you do with certain MMOs. So it's fun to enjoy like the World of Warcraft story, because my favorite expansions, Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm, the two I probably played the most, I kind of basically ignored the story. So it's nice, and I went super fast in those. So it's nice to, you know, I think if you're more casual, it's a better expansion for the more casual player. But for the hardcore players, it is not a good expansion. So it's probably the most it or Warlords of Draenor. Like, I don't remember Warlords of Draenor being this contentious when it launched. I think it was just very meh. It was like the most vanilla expansion.
At this point, we're down to like the really hardcore WoW people.
Yeah, the people who stuck around and played it forever.
Like, yeah. I imagine they're not getting tons of new players.
No. And they've also just over time scaled back just the number of buttons you push in any given spec. Like right now I'm playing a Retribution Paladin, and I only have like 4 different buttons in my rotation, and I'm standing there for a good majority of the time. Whereas compared to an MMO like Final Fantasy 14, if you're DPSing, 14 has like the most crazy complicated, in some cases, like DPS rotations. You'll push 15 different buttons through one cycle of your rotation.
DPS jobs keep you busy in that game. Not only do you need to be performing button presses, but you need to be doing them in certain orders, and you need to be on certain positions of the boss to perform the best damage.
You got combos and stuff that you build
got
through.
Combo chain.
So
the Dragoon has a 5-hit combo. I affectionately like to call it the Tekken 5-hit combo.
Your wombo combo.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, and another thing people don't like is that a lot of abilities are now on the global cooldown. So a lot of your even cooldowns, and this is where a lot of tanks are kind of getting mad, because there are active mitigation buttons. The things that you need to push in like a moment's notice are on the global cooldown now. So you have to wait, and they've also extended the length of the global cooldown. So I think it's 1.5 seconds now. So you have to be very predictive with your active mitigation as a tank. So just with there's all like, I think your interrupt as a Ret Paladin is like one of the only things not on the global cooldown.
What have you thought about the GCD changes?
It's a little bit slower. Like if I was tanking, I would probably not. I'd probably see more of a oh my god, this is driving me insane kind of thing. And I want a tank. I want a warrior tank. Warrior is my favorite class in the game, and has been since Cataclysm. Unfortunately, they're just in a really bad place right now. And I decided to play Ret Paladin to level with one of my roommates, and I'm not enjoying that class really. So a lot of these classes aren't going to be fixed in earnest until the first major patch, when all the new raids and stuff come out. So, and they haven't even announced a date. A lot of people thought it was going to be October, but it's not looking like October now.
Man.
So yeah, it's been contentious. But you know, I've been enjoying it. When you play it casually, I mean, it's a lot less of a grind, and this is perhaps the most grindy, at least initially, of any of the expansions, just because of the way the Azeroth armor works. Because I don't know what they were thinking with that. See, it was a good idea to have the Heart of Azeroth, because in the previous expansion, Legion, if you wanted to go into other specs, you had to put artifact power into that spec's weapon. Each weapon in a class each spec in a class had a different weapon. But now it's all on a neck piece, which you just share from spec to spec. So that's a good idea, but then they just botched the armor. And there are traits later on when you get purple items that are spec-specific talents.
I was gonna
And
say,
when you
are those
get...
specs? Yeah.
Yeah, and when you get an item that's like, if you're playing a Fire Mage, you get a Fire Mage talent on your Azeroth shoulders. It doesn't transition over when you become a Frost or an Arcane Mage. So then you have to grind out an additional piece of Azeroth armor.
Jeez.
So it's just... Yeah, and
It sounds like, honestly, it sounds like it's the same issue. You have to have certain pieces of gear, but if you really want to be prepped, which matters when you're endgame raiding and you're trying to stay current, is that it makes it nigh impossible to switch over to a different spec, because you then need to have the gear that has the proper setups on it.
Yeah, you almost want to pick a class that you know is going to be needed in a raid.
Yeah.
If you're playing like a Shaman, you're just kind of screwed right now, or like a Shadow Priest or something.
It's a little bit frustrating just because of that.
Yeah, I think they just rushed it. I think for whatever reason, Blizzard tried to rush this out as fast as they can. And
I don't know why either. It's not like they had anybody competing with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know. It just didn't seem done. And unfortunately, this is the system that WoW players are stuck with for the foreseeable future. So if you want to play it, enjoy the grind. And if you are playing it, I hope you are enjoying the grind. Or maybe you're enjoying it like me and just taking it easy. So do what you want to do. You got to play WoW how you want to play it, or any MMO for that matter. Do the things you enjoy. That's how you keep enjoying the game, essentially. But, all right. This has been episode 66, a podcast of Five Rings. Your source of entertainment and enlightenment. I've never botched that sentence. It's been 3 weeks. Give me some slack here. I can't read.
Much dishonor. I demand the 81 cents.
Where does the one go? I can't find it. Your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast 5 Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud, and Talk by Topic day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at PodcastLiveR, Facebook PHR Podcast. I know Meta and Lily have been streaming a lot more lately. They're at twitch.tv/PSO. Tell us about what you've been playing.
We actually have been playing. I just showed her Einhander from the PS1 days.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I showed her that. She liked the game. She thought it was very cool. She was very impressed with my ability to dodge bullets. So I'm going to put that one on my
like
ego score. Like I do. And then she's been playing Parasite Eve, because I've never seen Parasite Eve.
Spoopy.
I saw it all the time on like ads and shit, but I always thought to myself, like, is it like just Squaresoft trying to do like, a Resident Evil game? Okay, I guess, whatever, sure. And then Lily showed me the game, and I gotta say, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty funny. Like, it definitely suffers from 90s writing.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that the game is this very interesting mishmash of an action RPG at the time. For what it was. It's really cool, actually, so I really enjoy it. So we're going to be doing that again. I'm not sure if we're going to be streaming it this Saturday, but that's going to be on every Tuesday at minimum, so.
Cool.
That's what we've been doing so far.
All right, that's this episode. We should be back next week. We still have to work out a potential monthly mod. We've talked about a few different things, but we got to get a date and the game squared away, so that'll be announced soon, probably by next week, hopefully. And until then, we'll see you later.
See you later.